Um, So, updates from this week. I went to visit the Russian girl and her child.
Yeah.
I was absolutely amazed by the need for closeness from the child. It's like a little
From you.
monkey that, no, from her. It's like a
Oh,
little
okay.
monkey that has to be attached to her all the time. And the moment she's like kind of letting go of him, he starts to cry. And
Hmm.
what the fuck? Are everyone like that?
How old is he?
A year and a half. You know, when I saw his need for touch, it made me understand why I have such a need for touch because, when I was a child, I didn't receive a lot of that. So
Yeah.
that was very interesting.
Yeah. I would say it's quite normal for a 1.5-year-old to need their mother.
Like from what I've seen, a child needs to have a mother all the time with them, at least for the first 2 or 3 years. So there's that. Um, Finally, I've ejaculated after 2 or 3 months with some girl, and it was interesting the shift in my system immediately.
And what was this shift?
I wasn't
I
sure
noticed the shift.
if it was impulsive and out of alignment from a part to ejaculate, or it's something that the system already needed.
Hmm.
It felt like the system needed it. And right after I ejaculated, a stream of anger started to come up. And after that stream of anger went away, when we cuddled, I experienced that my heart was opening more, and the pleasure from the cuddling was increased. So that happened, I think, 3 days ago. And I can sense that my system is the day after. I was supposed to go to the ecstatic and do my inner work there, and had this experience of when I was lying in bed, it felt so incredibly good to rest.
Hmm.
It reminded me that when I got sick here for the first time, the sickness completely took me out. And uh, when I lay down, it felt orgasmic. It was such a insane relief. And then I was thinking to myself, I have probably wasn't aware of that part that needed to rest so much. And now that he's resting, then it's almost orgasmic for me to just lay in bed. So the day after when I woke up, I felt a similar pattern. So I decided to
2
not
months of
go.
just lay in bed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I decided to not go to the ecstatic dance and to keep on sleeping and not go to the gym. I assume the demon wanted to test that, see maybe the system needed that kind of rest. And it was positive. Yeah. So there was more allowance for resting
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
Also, yesterday I rested a lot. So these are two things.
Are your parts okay with this rest? I guess this is just my curiosity. You're not saying it, but I'm curious if there's a part that is uncomfortable with you resting. And I guess one other curiosity I hold is, are you curious about the anger and then cuddling that it went away? Because those are two things that I noticed. You know, that the anger left when you after you cuddled.
No, it didn't leave after I cuddled. I just felt the wave of it coming up, and my right leg started to shake a little bit.
Okay.
It's as if, in my crotch area, because it didn't ejaculate for so long, there was a lot of pressure.
Hmm.
And when the pressure released, then it's as if the anger could flow, but was kind of trapped within all that
Okay.
pressure.
All right.
That's the experience.
Gotcha. Thanks for
Yeah.
clarifying that.
And about the rest, seems aligned. Um, you know, the parts that understand that it's very important for them to be persistent on the path, understand that also needs to be a balance in the system.
Hmm.
And so far, it seems like a good balancing act. So there's no resistance.
Okay. Great. Good.
Also,
But do you
Mhm.
go ahead? I was just gonna ask what do you notice? You know, if it's balanced, what do you notice now? It might be room or space for parts that maybe don't often show up, or since there's this balance, maybe there's a part that wants to be noticed or doesn't normally get to. You might check in and see if there's anything that wants to be noticed.
so yesterday I smoked weed as part of the allowing of the rest,
Hmm.
and it's kind of sad that certain parts in the system come out mainly on weed, more of silly, playful, childlike parts. And it was so interesting because when I smoked, I was enjoying my own company so much that so I was maybe about to meet with, oh, maybe not, the girl that I told you about.
Hmm.
Um, and even though I would have enjoyed her coming over, eventually she did come over, I was totally fine with also not for her not to come and enjoy the time with my parts that weed allows that. So
Yeah, it makes sense to me to a part and or parts enjoy the relaxation and they can come out more when your system's relaxed. I mean, I'm, postulating a lot here, but there would have been a lot of energy built up before you ejaculated. So, and now your system's like, we can rest.
yes. And I see when I walk around here and I see attractive women, the tenacity behind approaching them is way, way, way lower. So it's also an interesting place to explore. So O came yesterday and she had a sleepover for the first time. And it was very interesting to experience how certain parts that came out only with my ex came out with her.
Mm.
The weed really helped with it. Usually these playful parts, She was very surprised. She said, I didn't know you have this fun part in you.
Mm.
And the former best friend that owes me money apparently
Yeah.
moved next to me.
Oh, yeah. That's a great way to have a tormentor.
Exactly.
Next door neighbor.
Um, so yeah, as it seems, the killer part still is in complete shock by the fact that I have been surrounded in that environment of people to the point where he experiences shame.
So the killer is experiencing the shame, or is he noticing a part that's experiencing the shame?
I think the killer is experiencing the shame.
Okay.
And my mom calls me 2 days ago, tells me that one of the other former best friends saw her at the beach and approached her. She was shocked and they started to talk. And I was shocked, amazed, and fascinated by the fact how people can cope with reality by creating a delusion of
Mm,
what happened. Like the version of what he shares with her, with my
mm.
mom, of things that happened is so out of reality.
Out of your parts realities,
No,
and
out of
they're in
objective
his
reality.
realities. Yeah.
His
But for
subjective
his
reality,
parts, yeah,
yeah,
for his parts, it's reality to his parts.
exactly. And the gap
Yeah.
between his subjective reality and objective
Yeah.
reality,
Yeah.
what the
It's
fuck?
amazing. Yeah. It's amazing what our parts can believe for us, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. I just want to make sure you know, like I'm not trying to argue or disagree with you. I'm just saying it's amazing how our parts choose to believe things that aren't objective reality. It's flabbergasting.
Yeah. You know, have you heard about the
Mm.
show Mr. Robot?
Mr. Robot? No,
Yes,
no.
absolutely amazing. There is a specific episode exactly on that. How a
Oh,
potato part creates this whole delusion for the main character,
okay.
and then towards the ending, it is shown what is actually happened.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, the version that he told my mom of what happened, what the? And there is evidence. There is text, there are videos, voice messages that completely contradict what he said,
Yeah.
and he still says that.
Mm.
And I wouldn't be surprised if he actually believes what he said.
Oh, well, certainly a part believes that. Certainly a part
Fucking
believes. Yeah.
insane. So
What does that do, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of energy around this. What does that do for your system to know that he's functioning that way?
there's a part that says it is sick and scary
You want to elaborate on that? Keep sharing. I'd like to hear more.
it's sickening how out of truth he can be in order to not face his own sense of guilt and shame and worthlessness. It's the straying away from what is true is sick.
Mm. And would you be open? Of course, it is sick. It is scary. But what about that is so upsetting? Why does that upset you? It's allowed to. I'm just curious about it.
Because people can make completely delusional realities, and other people can suffer from that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And he's probably suffering too in ways he's even unaware of, right? And
Oh, he's
I'm
suffering a
just
lot for sure.
I'm gonna not right now, not in this moment, but there have probably been ways your parts believed things that led you to suffer, and me, right? Things that my parts believe and led me to suffer.
The things with me, when my parts do these delusional patterns, it is always against me, not for me.
Oh, okay.
For me, it's the opposite
From
way.
but can you hear this? But whoever is saying that's a part of you, right?
Mhm.
So it's against this part of you. Some other part it's for.
I mean, the delusions are
Yeah, for
used,
some other part of you.
yes, but it will
Yeah.
be to show me in a negative light rather than in a positive light.
Yeah, but from whatever part's doing it, it's doing it for a reason. It's doing it for you.
From its perspective, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. And this guy's part is doing it for him too, painting him in a positive light for some reason. Your parts paint you in a negative light for some
Mhm.
reason. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the killer part is thickened by how my system was so close to that environment. Like again, I went back. Just saw him. I went back to text messages to keep integrating things.
Hmm. Right. Because your part is like, I can't believe what's happening here. I need to get some reality. I need to get some understanding of what's happening
And the childish behavior, oh my God.
in the text messages, you mean?
Yes. And then the killer part is so shocked that I've been so close to these people for such a long time. And he says, well, if I missed that, what else would I have missed?
Mm. It's got to be scary, uncomfortable, upsetting for him, the killer part.
It's like a bottomless pit.
of of fear that you of it might getting something wrong, of it getting something wrong. Is that the bottomless pit? I'm curious about that phrase.
The way that all of them turned on me
Oh, okay.
and then wanting my presence back, it's just so sick. I'm watching the text messages with all of them and how they can shift from part to part and have a disconnect between them and lie and manipulate and blame and project.
And so I'm just gonna ask because you're going inside, which is fine. Keep going. Who's here right now, and who am I speaking to? Just
Killer part.
okay. It's good to see you, killer. So you're talking a lot about this. I'm going to use the word betrayal right now with these friends, and mainly by this one guy and his delusion. What else do you want me
No,
to
by
know
both of
about?
them.
Oh, okay, there's two.
Mhm.
And how is this for you? How is it for you to recall and now have him live next door?
I can't understand how we can just walk by and not even say anything about the money that he owes me. If I was in his shoes, I wouldn't be able to even show my face here.
Mhm.
Then the only thing that makes sense is that he must be rationalizing somehow.
Can you say that word again? He might be what? Rationalizing?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And can I ask you, and of course you want to, but why is it important for you to understand him? Why is this important for you?
So it will not happen again.
Okay. What would happen if it did? You're going to make sure it doesn't, but why is it not okay?
I saw him as a future father for my kids,
Mm,
and this is scary to me. It's scary to me how the red flags were there, but other parts did a good job to not face the truth as it is.
hmm.
So it scares me that I've been so close to someone, and then this someone behaves this way.
Okay. I mean, I hear betrayal in that. You don't want to be betrayed again.
Yes.
And is it that you're protecting someone, or is this a burden you're carrying? Is this your discomfort, your distress? You were saying that earlier, that, but I'm just trying to get a sense because I know you're one of Neo's protectors, and you can have burdens too. Is this your shame?
Not sure. I'm noticing the more we speak about this topic, some layers that have been disassociated from what happened are slowly coming back.
Okay, I can notice that. Yeah, I'd check in with that if that's okay with Killer.
Yeah. So I'm thinking if this person that I was so close to him can behave in this way, what else? And I didn't see that coming. What else could I have missed or
Hmm.
still missing?
Hmm.
And then there's a part that is trying to think, okay, what could be the worst case scenarios?
Hmm.
Could be experiencing betrayal from my mom and from Rachel.
And if you did miss something from them, then what?
But maybe they are also capable of doing that shit.
Hmm.
There's a part that says, I don't see it happening, but after what happened, I'm questioning everything now.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sensing there could be a young part that you want to protect, that you want to keep safe from getting hurt, getting betrayed, getting misused, getting mistreated. And I just would invite that awareness to show up. You're saying, right? Like there are parts that are showing up that used to be disassociated. Can we
It's
just be aware of them?
it's so what happened with all that friend group, with each person, there has been this kind of a lid of numbness.
Hmm.
So everything will not flood the system at once. So with that former friend that owes me money that lives here, from him it's the most amount of pain. So there is still a lid on him
Uh-huh.
internally that is slowly uncovering. And the killer is looping on, I can't understand how is this even a possible thing. People can act in these kind of ways.
Hmm.
There's this strong sense of heaviness attached to it.
Yes. Is it okay to stay with that heaviness, to notice that heaviness?
Sure. The heaviness is saying if this happened, anything can happen, and I cannot trust anything now.
Hmm. Yeah.
And there's a part that was repeating in my head what my mom told me about the conversation with both of them at the beach.
Hmm. And what was that?
Makes me realize that this guy, that's it, it's done. He's so far in his own delusion of how things o- happened
Yeah.
that a repair is not possible there.
Mhm.
And with this guy over here, So part of the heaviness is also some parts coming in terms that it's over with them.
Mm. Is it sad? I'm curious if they're sad about that or are they fine?
There are parts that are very sad
Hmm.
that also miss all of them, and especially the one that lives here with next to me. But I don't really have access to that. I can sense it from afar. And I can hear the killer is looping on how sick it all is.
Hmm. And how does the killer, and I'm going to speak to you directly because I think you're still here. How do you want to help? How do you want to help in this situation?
I think I'm the one that needs help.
Mm, okay. Do you want help right now? Are you ready to do that, or is there more to share about this?
It's too hard for me to come in terms with what happened because it's so out of my reality.
What what's in your reality and what's out of it? Do you mean
Out
again that
of my
this guy,
reality is how they behaved, and especially this guy here.
right, right, that he can't get it, he can't see it from your point of view. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And what I'm saying is based with evidence.
Hmm.
And I predicted what will happen, that he will go to the US, it will not work. I predicted what will happen. And they all resisted me, then it happened.
And that they didn't believe you, that they didn't get you. What's that mean? What's you wanted to make sure I knew that. I just want to understand that they don't trust you.
Like I go back to self-analyze. Maybe I've done something wrong. Maybe I could have done something better, even though they all betrayed me. And still
Okay.
I'm doing it. And all the evidence are there. So I don't understand how are they probably not doing it.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I'd like to share, and this isn't coming directly from me, it's from a colleague that I heard, is uh, we're not going to be able to change what another person or part believes.
Of course.
The only thing we can do is heal ourselves.
Yes.
And that in and of itself can create a burden. That can be sad and hurtful itself that we can't heal others.
he'll know. There was hope that maybe I could help them face what is true, but yeah, I realized after all that happened with them, I understood that there is, with all of them, I have experienced a pattern where it's as if I'm fighting to show them something.
Mm, yeah.
And when I looked back to, for example, dynamic with my ex, from my point of perspective now, what I would have done differently, then it became very clear when I should have broken up, which is
Hmm.
earlier than when I actually did it.
Okay. And are you trying to see when you should have like broken up with this friend as well? Are you trying to get a sense of that? Like, should you have separated from him sooner?
Complicated. Well, definitely, I wouldn't pay for so much things that I paid for him. That's for sure.
Hmm.
Interesting. When I look at my relationship with him, I don't get a clear answer as I did with my ex.
Yeah. Maybe just listen. Maybe there's other parts involved. You had said earlier that there were disassociated parts that were coming back. Maybe they have more to say about this. Maybe they're more involved than you might have known.
Now I'm thinking, I mean, that pattern that called him, that made that friend to betray, every time I had a rupture with him was because of some girl.
Hmm. What does that make you think about?
Trying to understand what could I have done differently. One of the things that my mom showed me is that I have this pattern where I used to put a lot of resources into other people so they could evolve or understand things and grow and blah, blah.
Okay. Is that what you're doing now? Do you want to put resources into him to help him grow?
No,
Okay.
when I think about his past relationship with a girl, when we were in the States and she invited us to her place, immediately I couldn't trust her. And then kind of what I predicted that would happen happened with her.
You're very good at predicting. You predicted what would happen for him. You predicted what would happen for her.
With some people, it's pretty easy because their patterns are obvious. So there's a part that is trying to come up with a rule here that is saying maybe I also need to look at who the people who are close to me are dating and pay very close attention to that because that's also a mirror towards them. And notice I'm getting logical here.
Hmm. Yeah. The logical aspect is that you kill her, or is that a new part?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, you're welcome, wherever you are.
I still sense this heaviness.
Yeah. So
It's kind of
turn.
there's this powerlessness attached to it.
Hmm. The heaviness
I think it's the same part
feels.
for the from the dream that I told you about him.
Hmm.
This part is looking at him and saying, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Hmm. Yeah. It sounds like there's a part that doesn't want you to keep being involved. Like maybe it's saying like let it go.
No, the opposite. That part is looking towards that former friend and tells him, "What are you
Oh,
doing?"
what? Oh, what? He's okay. I
Yeah,
apologize. I thought I was saying it to you. My bad. Yeah. So if you could, so I'm going to speak to this part that's saying, what the fuck are you doing to him? If you could figure this out, if you could figure out what he's doing, or he finally figured out what he was doing, what would that bring? Why is this important?
maybe he will finally see what is happening and take responsibility, and there will be a repair.
Okay. And if there isn't a repair, so I guess I'm asking, why does there have to be? And or what if it doesn't happen? What if there isn't one?
Just feel this tense sensation on my heart that also has powerlessness in it. There's another part trying to escalate things,
Hmm.
asking the one that just talked, well, what happens if there will never be a repair and he will stay
Yeah.
exactly where he is? Then that part is speechless.
Hmm.
The firefighters are pretty strong around this area.
Yeah. What are they saying? What are your firefighters saying?
I can sense them trying to numb or to think about other things.
Mm. Of course, you know this. You can ask them to give some space or, hear from them, hear them out.
What comes up is if it happened with him, it can happen with anyone. And then there's a
Mm. Yeah.
sense of collapse.
Yeah.
But there are other parts that disagree with that, in the sense of the red flags were always there.
Say that again. I'm sorry. What was always there? It's the first word.
The red flags.
Red flags. Okay. Yeah.
But it seems like the part that is collapsing possibly wasn't aware of those red flags.
Yeah. It sounds like that's part of your role. You want these red flags to become more obvious in a sense. Why didn't we see them? We need to see them.
There was a degree of denial about them.
Hmm. Sure.
And also a part that hoped that maybe the next time it will be different.
Hmm.
So the part that is collapsing, I assume, wasn't aware of the red flags that other parts saw because of the denial that is coming from a need for connection.
Yeah.
So I'm asking the collapsing part if he was aware of the red flags.
Yeah. That's an interesting question.
Nope, that part wasn't aware. That part
Yeah.
only can see the good times ahead with him.
Yeah. And how is that for you to know that he didn't know. He just wasn't aware. It's not that he ignored them, he just didn't know that they existed.
The killer part is saying that it is sick because
To
it's
not see
either
them.
that it was obscured from that part.
Hmm.
There's such a strong sense of aversion for not seeing what is true. And
Hmm.
this is why, for example. So that part of collapsing is seems like more of a maybe child part, because the first thing that visually came when I tapped into that part is a moment where me and that friend were watching UFC together.
Hmm. And what is it that you notice about watching the UFC?
It's really very similar to I see it within myself, I saw it within other friends. So, for example, with me and my ex, there were parts that were completely oblivious to the shadows that came out from her.
Hmm.
And they
Hmm.
saw her only as this angel.
Yeah, yeah. Because some other part of you is more focused on the relationship at any cost than you are.
Yes, that the part values connection more than truth.
Mhm. You said it more eloquently than I did. I appreciate that.
Mm. Yeah. And this is a recipe for danger.
And the other part thinks that there's a danger not to connect.
I think it's more of losing certain connections.
I wouldn't know for sure, right? So we could probably ask him if you're interested in hearing, but that may not be your agenda right now.
It's with those parts that value connection more than truth, where trauma bonding is happening.
Hmm. Sure.
It seems like something within the killer part relaxed a little bit.
Glad to hear that.
So he's thinking, okay, so there are parts here that value connection more than truth. Why?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. And thank you for asking. And we'll just wait for them to answer. Let's wait to hear from them.
I can't hear from them.
Are other parts coming up, or what's preventing that?
There's this layer of, let's say, fogginess. Then there is a part that is thinking from a more therapeutic perspective. Why would that happen? And the answer would be that children would prioritize connection maybe more than anything,
Mm.
even if the connection is abusive, they would still prefer that rather than not having a connection.
Right. And why is a connection so important to you? Why is the connection the most important thing for you?
for humans and for children in general.
Mm. And are you a child? Are you young?
No,
No. Okay. Are you wanting to help one of Neo's young parts? Maybe that's your connection to children.
I'm trying to help the killer part understand what is happening so he can suffer more.
Okay. Most likely you're both protecting the same part. It's quite likely.
Maybe well, the killer part needs to understand that the other parts are kids and he's treating them as if they are adults. This is why the killer part is reacting in such a strong shock because it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense to him why these parts would act this way, but he
Right.
doesn't understand that they don't act rationally, they act irrationally. And these parts are traumatized.
Hmm.
So the killer part said, fuck, it actually makes sense now.
I'm glad it's making more sense for him. And he doesn't have to like it. It's just different perspectives from different parts.
Then the killer part is saying, okay, so if I adopt this logic, it also means that that former friend was also, he was acting irrationally. So,
Hmm.
and it makes sense because he was also very childish. Now the killer is saying, holy shit, I was surrounded by kids in adult costumes.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. What's that like for you, Killer? You had to grow up really fast, Killer.
The first thing that came up is I cannot keep having those type of people in my life. And I need to pay very close attention to the people that I do allow in my life.
Okay.
So I need to be on the lookout for childish behaviors. And then when I look, for example, at Rachel and at my mom, Rachel doesn't act in childish ways almost ever. And so is my mom.
And what's the sense you're getting from that?
was interesting when I spoke with my mom yesterday. She was telling me about a conversation with a friend. Told me that after probably like 5 minutes, the way that he was talking, in her perception, she said it was as if I'm talking to a child,
Hmm.
to the point where it became almost funny to her how victimizing he is to himself.
And what is it like for you to talk to children? And I'm speaking to the killer. What's it like for you to speak to children or see them? Because Nia was with a 1.5-year-old this week. What was that like for you?
Kind of awkward.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, kids probably don't make a lot of sense to you.
Like I don't know what to do with them. There are other parts that want to play with them and goof around. For example, my stepdad is very good with kids. He really knows how to play with kids.
How old is he? How old is your stepfather?
Now he's 60, I think.
60. I think people get better playing with kids the older they get.
He always had that. Also, when he was in his mid 30s.
Hmm.
When I was around that 1.5 year old, I saw he was shy. It's like I didn't know if maybe like touching him in a ticklish way could lighten him up, or would it be violating his boundaries because he's shy? I didn't know how to orient myself around that kid.
Yeah.
So I was like,
So if I could, I'm going to jump in and say, what if when Neo is around this child again, if he intends to be, I'm assuming, what if you let other parts lead? What if it wasn't you? Parts that do know more about being playful. Something to consider.
there's shame around that. I mean, if, for example, I was babysitting that kid, some other playful parts would come up pretty easily. But because there are
Yeah,
other, but when there are other people, shame comes up.
that there are other people watching. They're
Yes.
present. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna, make a point around that's sort of why we're here, is to help heal that shame, right? I mean, that's sort of what we're here to do. And I'm not pushing that to happen right now. I'm just saying that's where we're going. It's to help the shame heal.
I've noticed that something within me as the killer part has relaxed a little bit by being able to differentiate between how some people are capable to be more adult, some are overtaken by their childish behaviors.
Yeah, say more about that.
For example, when I was thinking about this friend and how he completely flipped and betrayed me and Rachel, to understand in a logical level that he was acting in irrational ways means that he was overtaken by some child protector within him that I know who the part is. So to see that lowers the levels of shock a little bit.
Okay, great. More awareness in your system.
I again I experienced more access to self now.
Hmm.
So it's easier for me when I look at that former friend to look at him as a child that was blending with him. Kind of like my mom said when she was talking with another friend. It's as if she was talking to a child, and the way he was
Hmm.
talking.
Hmm.
So I'm noticing that the shock and the aversion and hatred is kind of shifting to seeing it more as tragic.
Hmm. Tell me about the tragedy. What's the tragedy?
When I had the previous rupture with him, it was probably like 2, 3 years ago. Didn't I was living with him, didn't speak for a while. I think for about 2 or 3 weeks. And then I don't remember exactly how it went there, but I was open to do an intervention where I
Hmm.
brought the circle of friends. I put a camera and we all started to talk. Long story short, all of them saw what is actually happening.
Hmm.
Then my previous ex back then understood that she needs to talk with him alone. They went to speak alone. She came to me and said, listen, if you want this situation to be resolved, you need to step more into self because your protector is stressing his inner child, let's say.
Hmm.
So I did it, it worked, and I saw very clearly how his main child protector is perceiving him to be worthless and everybody will eventually leave him. So he pushes others
Yeah.
away preemptively. That's what that this is what is tragic.
Right. That you can see it all. You can see what's happening and not do anything about it. Unfortunately, not be able to do anything.
I thought that after this intervention and all the healing and that happened over there, healing, I don't know if it's healing, but I hoped it was healing, let's say,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I showed him that even though you perceive him to yourself to be worthless, we are all still here and we still care about you, blah, 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 blah. But apparently it wasn't enough
Mm. Mm. Yeah. That
because
is
the same
tragic.
loop came up again. Yeah.
That is tragic. Parts can continue to show up, can continue to be intense, even with healing. They can still be in stuck positions. The process of this ongoing work that we do, it's not once and done, right?
In that talk that I had with him 2 or 3 years ago, it was the crossroads talk that I do with people, where the premise is, listen, I show you the two paths. You can choose what path you're going to take. One is the path of taking responsibility and accountability, and and the other path is not, and that means me and you are done.
Yeah.
So when I had that talk with Rachel a year ago, she drastically shifted in a positive way, and I thought the same would happen with him, but
Hmm.
apparently not. Or maybe it was just a deeper layer that came up in him, so and took over.
Yeah, could be. Right. It's hard to say, right?
So now the killer part is saying, what if when I look at him, instead of treating him as an adult, I will treat him as a child. When I do that, there's definitely more self-energy towards him.
Mhm.
The need to fight and prove something and to slap his fucking face so he'll wake up, all of that is nullified.
Mhm. And I'd like to just offer the invitation, right, that you can also heal, right? Because I'm hearing you talk about, well, I could manage this better. The part of you that's distressed or discomforted, and it could even be you, right? So you could just heal. You don't have to manage it better. You get to manage it better. I'm not asking you to to not do that, but there's another way to address this too. It seems like it's taking a lot of your energy right now.
Yes, as it seems, the path to heal it is through the process that I'm doing. Unless you have some other suggestion.
Oh, did you say me? I thought you had another suggestion. I'm sorry. Um, I mean, it just seems like a lot of work. It seems like a lot of work for you. I'm just asking if you wanted it to be easier, and maybe the hard way is the way that it works for you.
What do you suggest?
Well, if it's you, you can unburden, or if it's a part you're protecting, it can unburden. And then you don't have to work so hard at this to manage it.
Seems like I need the long way.
Oh, that was very funny. I'm not sure if you meant it to be funny, but it was funny.
Yeah. So when you offered what you
Yeah.
said, I've noticed it like doesn't click in my system, so
So
uh,
you need a long way.
it seems.
Okay. And you know what? Truthfully, maybe the long way will be, I mean, it's what sort of comes up in my head is like, well, maybe it'll stick. You know, how you said you're this guy who used to be your friend, you had this talk and it didn't land. It didn't stick the way it did. I think you said for Rachel, right? M- Maybe the long way is the way it will like get into your system.
Well, hopefully.
Hmm.
So when I'm doing this kind of a shift in perspective and to perceive him as a, a child in a in an adult costume, noticing that the anger subsides, but then I need to be mindful that I'm not bypassing anything.
Hmm.
So when I imagine his adult version, immediately what comes up is a piece of shit. And when I imagine the child version, what comes up is poor kid.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
Now the killer is saying, well, actually, it will be, it will change my life completely if I were to be able to treat adults as if they are children when they are blended with these kind of parts.
Mm.
Because my rage and fury is coming from perceiving them as an adult or acting irrationally and it pisses me off.
Okay.
But if I am were able to see to make that process shorter, then I would suffer less.
Yeah. It, in in addition, other parts and Neo as a whole would suffer less. I mean, that's really, well, I'm speaking for you, but I was going to say that's really your goal too. But I would assume you don't want Neo to suffer. You don't want that. That's sort of the reason you're doing all of this, because you don't want him to suffer.
Yes, so I think I'm coming up with a rule that I already knew, but if I could implement it in real time, it would be amazing. When somebody is acting, so what I need to do is when somebody is acting irrationally, immediately perceive them as a child.
Yeah, and that's the long way. And eventually, you can heal. I'm not against your way, but I'm just saying I just want to keep putting it out there. Eventually, you can just be healed from this, and it won't, in a sense, distress you or the system. But the long way is important right now.
Interesting. It's like the low part received another lens.
The what part? I apologize.
The killer part
Killer part, okay? Right.
has received another lens to look through. That says whenever he gets activated to consciously think, am I speaking to an adult or a child right now?
Hmm.
Because if he is speaking to a child and he is entering rational or fighting mode, it's futile.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you're having this awareness. Yeah, that does make sense. Applying ration and reason to someone who isn't rational or reasonable is futile.
So I'm noticing that the heaviness that I had before isn't here.
Mhm. Okay. I'd like to give a quick example in the positive around this, right? So you're talking with someone when someone is fighting or upset or disagreeing, right? So you're saying, I'm speaking to the killer, being rational and reasonable is futile. It might be futile as well for you to be in the lead when Neo is with children. In the positive direction, children don't usually lead with rationality. So it might be useful for other parts to be in the lead.
Yes. And then what is happening is kind of because of the shame, as if I'm getting summoned automatically.
By the shame.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I'll go back to that's what we're
Yeah,
here to
yeah.
heal. Yeah. But which is fine. It's the long way. You seem really dedicated to doing this the long way instead of healing the shame.
If I had access to heal it at the moment, I would want to do it. It just I don't
Well,
experience it.
yeah, yeah, because you're a part of Neo, right? And it's something I've been inviting right along is that he shows up so he can access the shame, right? It's never been your job to access or heal the shame. It's been your job to keep Neo safe from it, which is the long way. And it's a valuable tool. It's a valuable expression. But there's another way.
Well, let's hope that the shorter way will open up.
Reveal itself. Yeah.
Yes.
And I want to make sure you're hearing like and I am actually benefiting from this too. They're going like, okay, well, sometimes the long way is the way it's supposed to be.
Mhm.
So, but I'm not going to stop offering that, when you're ready, when it's available, when we get there, there'll be a shorter way too.
Praying for that.
Well, we're gonna have to wrap up here too.
Hmm.
And I always appreciate meeting with rational parts and irrational parts. They're both good.
Yes. Thank you
Thank
very
you,
much.
Neo. Yeah, you're welcome.
Evening.
See you next week.
Yep. Bye.
All right. Yeah, bye-bye.